We are going live, Siddharth. So,
all right.
we'll wait for 2, 3 minutes. Okay, after 3 o'clock, and then we will start
Sure.
once we are live.
All right. That sounds good.
Live हो तो बता दो बस. ये questions वगैरह कुछ नहीं. I'll carry that with me. नहीं, that's okay. मेरे को बस ऐसा दिखा रहा था. It is live. And just see how many of them. No, once we have 20-30, then we will start. Siddharth, we will just wait for 2 minutes.
Sure. No worries.
Siddharth, we will start. We are starting, Siddharth.
All right.
Hello, friends. A very warm welcome to each one of you in this first episode of Conspectus. My name is Prince George, and I'm really delighted to host this talk show for you. Conspectus is designed, conceptualized, and presented by Prince George and Company. We're a firm of chartered accountants, and we ensure that we pick up issues which are of vital interest to the business community, to the taxpayers, and also to professionals like CAs and lawyers. And we invite guests to discuss these topics. And the way we have approached this talk show is that we are not here to discuss about these topics at a macro level, but instead the attempt is to really get into the details and the granular level, the ground realities, and and take some actionable insights from our expert who is our guest, and to ensure that the audiences they walk away with some inputs which are helpful to them in taking operational real life decisions in their life. So today's topic, friends, is on startups and how the current ecosystem in startups support entrepreneurs and startups. And to give us insights into the same, we have an expert who is actually an authority in the subject. Um, please welcome Siddharth Chandra. He is the CEO of Sardar Patel Technology Business Incubator. Uh, it is a vibrant business incubator based out of Bhavans College campus in Mumbai. Welcome, Siddharth.
Thank you, Prince. Thank you for having me over on the podcast.
Just to give a brief background, friends of Siddharth, Siddharth is an alumni of Sardar Patel Institute of Technology, which was earlier called as Sardar Patel College of Engineering. And he did his BE in IT stream from that college. And post that, he moved to US to pursue his master's in computer science. And and work as a data scientist and software developer for 9 years. And he worked in the startup AI space in New York. After 9 years in 2023, he came back to India and he decided to work for his alma mater, which is Sardar Patel Institute of Technology, as a professor of practice. And as a professor of practice, his role was to bridge the gap between academia and the industry. And he taught there for 3 semesters. Post that, he moved to his current role, which is the CEO of SPTBI, wherein he is helping startups build businesses. So once again, a very warm welcome to you, Siddharth, and we are really thankful for you to take out this valuable time and join us for this conversation. So let's start the conversation, Siddharth. My first question is very fundamental. Um, what is an incubator, and can you just explain that to our audience? And how does it
Sure,
help the
sure. So, if you think about an incubator, the first time when you hear that word, I would think about these places where you would have these eggs which are kept, which would allow for getting the right kind of support till they hatch out. And
hospital?
that is and that is the kind of analogy when I think about incubator is when you have an idea, you want to protect it. It's right there inside the eggshell, and incubators are going to help um, startups and people, especially specifically if you're looking at technology business incubators, you're looking at tech ideas. We are going to allow for you to put that delicate and fragile thing which is there and allow you to be able to hatch it and make it prosper into something which could be scaled out. So that is the like the picture I would give to somebody who's not really associated with the system. But if I go a little more, as an incubator, we help early stage startups grow by providing mentorship, infrastructure, funding opportunities, networking, business guidance, and we try to bridge the gap which is there between an idea and a viable business by offering all the resources that startups might struggle to access independently.
Siddharth, we all know, at least I know that SPTBI is a very vibrant incubator and perhaps one of the pioneers in this area. So, can you also take us through what exactly SPTBI as an incubator is providing in terms of facilities? Is there some kind of a virtual tour that you can take us through, so that the audience also, especially those entrepreneurs, have no clue about these things, they get an idea as to what it is.
Absolutely. So, as an incubator, let me actually show you a quick tour. I might have to share my screen, but I think it doesn't. I won't be able to share it. It says that it's disabled. But if you go to the website, all right.
I've given the rights to you as well to share
Oh,
now.
perfect, perfect. Now I can do that. So let me just quickly share my screen and take one of the tabs here. Yeah, let's do this, right? You can see my screen. Is my screen visible?
Now it's visible.
All right. So can you see the kind of a virtual tour setting here?
Yeah, it appears to be an upside down picture. Is it that way?
Okay.
Supposed to be that way?
No. So I
Now
think
it's
there might
perfect. Yeah.
it might be a bit of a lag, but see if we can, if going in here allows you to see it, then that's great. Otherwise, I'll just describe some of the
Yeah.
things which are there.
Yeah. Just one thing, Siddharth. For the
Sure.
audience, clarification, friends, we are trying to show you how really an incubator looks like, so that we are aligned and you get the context well for our further discussion.
Awesome. So I'll need your help here whenever you just confirm. So I'm looking at the external building of SPTBI right now.
Yes, I
Is
can
it
see this. Yeah.
all right? Perfect. So I'll just quickly do a virtual tour showing you
Yeah.
what we have. This is so if I look at TBI is right now centered in two areas. We started off on one floor in the Sardar Patel Institute of Technology, and over a period of time have expanded to a building outside where we have two floors. So this is the building outside where we also have the main office.
Okay.
This is the entry point, and I'll quickly take you to what some of the physical facilities look like. So if you come inside here, you'll be able to see a whole bunch. It's an office space which
Yeah.
exists, and on the left side you'll see a bunch of cabin spaces. So these are all cabins where people can startups can come and physically incubate with us, so they can have
Just
this space.
can you go a little backwards,
Sure, let me go back.
where you had all those frames on the wall?
Sure. So these are some of the companies which have been associated with us throughout time. Some continue to be with us, and of course, some have graduated out. So that's a wall that we maintain to kind
We
of
lost
show
you,
that.
Siddharth.
Am I audible now?
Now you're audible, yes. So these
All
are
right.
the company who are currently incubated or were incubated with your incubator, right? These are the startups.
Yes, so these are the startups which are incubated. Some of them have graduated, some continue to be with us right now. So I'll talk about some of the ways in which we incubate them, but after I'll quickly show you the space so people can relate with what they are seeing and understand it better. So like you see, these are some of the office spaces which are there. Some of the cabins are also converted to co-working spaces where people can have single seats in which they can don't have to take an entire cabin and have that space. And similarly on the second floor we have a similar setup, right? We also have meeting rooms which are provided because that is typically something which a lot of people require on a day in day out basis, so they can book the meeting space. Of course there are considering it's a common facility, we keep a certain set of hours dedicated, after which once you've expired you can additionally pay for hours for the meeting room. And we have a common area for lunching, and if you see small in case if you want to take a break, You can also come here, sit down here. There are some common spaces here and there, and the similar setup exists on the 8th floor as well. Now, this is since I've showed you this. Now I'll talk about what are some of the ways in which we are, doing the incubation. So we do
Do
the
you want to share? Is it possible to share the laboratory also that we have where you build the prototypes?
So we do not have the tour for the laboratory, but I think I can show you something which gives the sense in terms of
Yes.
images, if that will work. Let me just pick that out.
Even I can share. Just a minute. Let me share. 1 second. I
Sure.
have that. I have that. So for the audience, this is how typically a incubator look like from inside. You can see all these are budding future entrepreneurs who are working on some great ideas which can turn out to be a unicorn someday. And incubators provide these facilities to them because many a time they do not have access to these kind of facilities. Similarly, they also help them in building the prototype product. So these are the laboratories where all these entrepreneurs can come and test and build the prototype. Yeah, so this was just to give everyone a sense on what it means to be an incubator and how does it really help entrepreneur in terms of facilities. Yeah, over to you, Siddharth.
I think, yeah, I might have missed out my video feed. I think it's coming now. All right. Yeah, so thanks for sharing that. So yes, so like I said, we have two buildings. One building setup which I've already shown you. One was on the floor, and what you showed in terms of the lab that exists in a lab facility that we have where we house multiple labs and a digital studio. So that is also all these combined. We have around 15,000 square feet plus of space, which allows us to provide these facilities to the startups which are there here in the ecosystem. And at a given time, physically we have around 17 to 18 startups. And if we look at the entire ecosystem, currently we are supporting close to 60 startups
So,
now.
Siddharth, just a follow-up question. Is
Sure.
this how usually an incubator look like or typically is, whether it is your incubator or a private incubator or incubator in any other state in the country?
That's a good question. So incubators also kind of function in a startup style. Every incubator is kind of unique, but there are certain things which will always remain common, which is if you are supporting startups as an incubator, you're looking at providing early stage startup support. It could be in terms of grants, seed support programs, or any kind of mentor support, guidance and mentoring on legal, financial, compliance based, CA based, help and support. That remains common. Things around space, lab provisions, they differ from incubator to incubator. So maybe not all incubators might have a lab space. Some might have it, some might have a very large space, some might have a modest space, some might not have provisions for the physical space support, some might have a limited provision. So to answer your question, it depends from person to incubators to incubators.
And do you charge for these or any incubator charges for these facilities, your
uh,
facilities?
Yes, so incubators, so for the physical spaces, since we are supposed to also provide for running of the incubator via maintenance charges. So we, as an operation charge, we do provide them with, we do ask for a certain nominal fees. These fees are very nominal. If you look at people looking at going to co-working spaces or renting out space, if you compare it with them in the area, very nominal charges. And in terms of labs, we do charge for consumables, so you can use the equipments, but of course the items which will get consumed, like let's say if you're looking at 3D printing and you want to print out something, so we would ask you to we would charge you for the filaments. You can also buy your own filaments and then come to us. So that is.
Okay. Okay, fair enough. Yes, please. You were saying something.
Prince, is my video visible? Because I think
But it's still not
I'm
visible.
seeing a message that it says that you rejoined the meeting.
Can you do one thing? Can you just exit and reach? But if you
Yeah, I'll just quickly do that.
yes,
Give me 1
yeah.
second. All right. Am I visible now?
Yeah, you are visible. Is he visible? Right. Yeah. Okay.
All right. So yeah, so that's how we do that. And when we come to supporting the early stage startups, we do it in terms of schemes that we apply for. So there are multiple schemes from the government that we have applied for, based on which we open a call for application. When people who are building an idea, certain ideas, they apply for those schemes. We present them to an investment committee, and then a decision is made with regards to consensus from people on various industry experts that we bring in, and experts from the ecosystem who allow for figuring out who will join the program. So if they get this scheme, we have a MOU which gets signed with the people, and depending on the program. So for instance, I'll take the example of one of the schemes that we support, which is called Nidhi Prayas. So as per that, we look at creation of a a technical prototype, which is a hardware centered technical prototype. And the duration of the scheme goes from anywhere between 12 to 18 months, in which we have a milestone based program to support the startup, and then we do these reviews with them so that we can make sure that in case they need some additional support, guidance, connections, network, angel support, we are able to do that anytime we review them, whatever feedback we get, and we try to continue making them
Yeah.
succeed.
Yeah. So we will discuss that as well in a little detail.
Sure.
But before that, since we are talking generally about the startup ecosystem in India and how the government is supporting the entrepreneurs, can you give us some insight into what Startup India initiative is all about? I know there is a website as well, which the
Right.
government of India has built. What is it, and how does it help entrepreneur?
So Startup India initiative, as per that, you have a scheme, you have a Startup India seed fund scheme. So we also provide that scheme at the incubator. That means that the government gives us a certain tranche of money, which we are supposed to route and channel to high potential startups who do have a chance of success. Of course, we determine that through our internal processes for selection. So as per that, it's a hybrid scheme. So what happens is, you can any startup which is very on the earlier stage, and they are looking at creating a prototype and looking for a grant, they can get up to 20 lakhs as a grant sum, right? And after that, we create out a milestone based review plan for them to work on that. And like I said, 12 to 18 months, that's typically the duration. Might be missing out here a couple of months, but within that time frame. The other part why it's a hybrid scheme is because the other side of it is seed support. So in case if you're looking at slightly more mature startups who have moved to a certain place, they have the idea developed out, and now they're looking at raising a bigger amount of fund. We are able to provide up to 50 lakhs in funding. And in this, we also take a certain amount of convertible debenture or CCAPS, uh, so that we are also invested slightly deeply into the company.
Okay, so typically the maximum size of seed fund investing would be 50 lakhs. And what about grant?
Grant goes to up to 20 lakhs per startup.
up to 20 lakhs for
Right.
startups. So,
This
so
is
for
specific to Startup India Seed Fund Scheme.
yeah. So how does this money come? For example, this the grant. If the government signs a check of say 10 lakhs,
Right.
does it directly come and get deposited in the entrepreneur's account, or do the government give that in tranches?
So everything is released in tranches to make sure that there is a responsible release of funds and there is accountability in the system. So the government does not directly release to the startups. We become the guardians of the money, and we are responsible to taking care and gradually releasing it to the startups based on the progress that they are doing. So there's a request which comes in. We also look at what is the fund utilization plan of the
Okay.
why people are asking for funds, how
Yeah.
they will be utilized. And we do have experts in the system who will assess that, ask relevant questions with regards to finding out, and making sure that we are getting the candidates are truthful and they are good, they are high potential. And once that is done, there is an ask from their side, and then we release the funds based on that in tranches. So once they have typically exhausted around 80% of the tranche that was released to them, they can request for more.
Okay. So all the schemes that Startup India initiative is providing, I
Hmm.
believe you have all those schemes in your incubator. It goes through
Uh,
your, is it?
can you repeat the question? So can you repeat the question?
I assume that there are many schemes that Startup India as an initiative, the government offers. So is it that your incubator has all those schemes, or the entrepreneur has to go to somebody else also for some other scheme?
Right. So right now we currently support Startup India Seed Fund Scheme and Nidhi Prayas. We are doing that actively for these schemes, and of course we've had previous schemes as well. But call for application right now is, for instance, is open for Nidhi Prayas that we are supporting out. So it is not necessary to answer your question. It's not necessary that if an organization, a ministry is providing a body which has multiple schemes, that the incubator will by default have all the schemes. Even incubators have to apply for these schemes, kind of have to give a pitch to say that we are eligible for these schemes. Of course your eligibility has to be there, and why you think that the scheme should be given to us so that we can continue to support uh, entrepreneurs in a certain segment.
So, are you aware of any such scheme which you as a you doesn't have, but the central government is offering that scheme, and which is a kind of a flagship scheme of the government and offers much bigger sum than 50 lakhs?
So there are multiple schemes which are there. I won't go too deep into that, but
Okay,
there are multiple schemes which exist which also give you a higher amount of fund as compared to 50 lakhs. So
okay,
that is there, and of course we are also in the process of figuring out and applying for some of these so that we can continue to support the ecosystem better.
okay. For the audience, I will probably leave the link in my YouTube channel so that you can go to the Startup India Initiative website and probably check on your own as to what all those schemes are. So coming back to our conversation, Siddharth,
Mhm.
my next question is, let's take an imaginary scenario wherein there is an entrepreneur, a young lad who has an idea, right? But he has no clue what to do with that idea, what his next step should be. He very strongly believes in that idea. So what do you recommend him? Should he come to an incubator, whether it is yours or somebody else? Whom should he go to and talk to with respect to validating his idea?
Uh, all right. So and we do have quite a few young people, or I won't even say young, because people are entrepreneurs at every stage of their life. And I don't want to put anybody in a certain bracket that you have to be a certain age to do that. So but we have multiple people who come up with these questions with regards to figuring out how to start up or what to do when they have an idea, and it depends on what stage you are at. So if you're looking at idea stage, the first thing is to figure out you can validate your idea. You validate your idea, understanding that is there somebody that you can find who is going to be there to brainstorm and figure out that you can, you know, refine it a little bit to make sure that there is a potential to think about a business around it, or create something around it. At times some of the ideas, it's very thrilling to have them, but they don't have, if you're just one person thinking about an idea and don't discuss it, that's not really worth it. Kind of
Correct.
people you want to discuss with are mentors. So I highly recommend having mentors in personal and professional life. That's something which I've personally
Correct.
benefited for. If you're looking at technical ideas, see if you can latch on and piggyback on the opinions of professors or industry experts you might have in your network. If not, as an incubator, one of the things we also do is see if there is somebody we can connect them to. um, Market research and feasibility is something you want to do, figure out how to make sure that this is an idea which is going to be feasible to take to the market, right? Go to market should be
Yes.
there.
But that person can never be an incubator. Will you entertain somebody who just give you a call and say that, I have an idea and I do not know how to proceed? You as in, maybe not just you, I mean any other incubator as well. Will you entertain such queries?
uh, Believe it or not, sometimes we have entertained it, but it's not the most optimal use of our time for each of the people. And here is why: because I feel like when you have this immediate question, you need to do some homework, go validate, come up to us. So I would say come to an incubator where you are able to say that, hey, I have an idea and here is my pitch. At least have the
Okay.
entire pitch ready. Pitch should contain, so there are like some very standardized pitches which is out there are there. Guy Kawasaki has, for instance, created a very nice format in which you can create a nice pitch, have all the essential details out there, create that, and then at least we'll know that okay, fine, you have done your homework and you're not just kind of toying with an idea, because it's very easy to come up with an idea, right? But it
That's
takes
correct.
much more to think very deeply on that and create certain numbers which can allow people to say okay, fine, this seems to be, maybe we can guide you to a better place.
Okay, so let me drill this down a little bit more, just to understand at what stage that entrepreneur is ready to come and talk to you, and you are willing to lend your ears and your money as well, right? And your facilities. So
Sure.
let's say again, there's an entrepreneur who has an idea, but he's not simply sleeping on that idea. What next he did was, say it's an idea with respect to quick delivery, food
Hmm.
delivery, right? So, and he's making an app. So the next thing that he did was he went to say 10 restaurants,
Mm-hmm.
and he got an MOU signed by them that if this product is built, then they will be more than happy to enroll in it. Okay. And he did this with say 100 restaurants, and they signed that MOU, just an MOU, nothing else. Now, for the purpose of taking this project to an incubator, whether it is yours or somebody else, is this enough as a proof of concept?
uh No. So if you are looking at a person who has gone and talked to the customer, so that's a great thing. That is great. You are able to come have a conversation, have sign. If you're signing an MOU, firstly, what that MOU really holds is also important. So
It
that's
simply says that yes, if this product is indeed built,
hmm.
then we are okay to subscribe for it.
All right. So that is a point where we will be curious to understand what the idea is a little more, and see if there is a certain structure. But there are two things which I would definitely look out for. When somebody is coming to us, we do often tell them or have certain questions which give them certain insights, and they're like, okay, we are going to work on something, then come back. So typically, all those questions could be answered out when you're creating, when you create a lean business canvas for yourself. uh, these are standardized things which are available. So find out what a lean business canvas is, find out what a pitch deck should look like. These two things you should definitely have when you're coming to us. And if you know about customers, of course, the question which always comes to us, okay, who's going to buy a product? Why should I subscribe to your idea? So if you have had conversations with customers and paying customers, and there is an intent to purchase or work on that, the more the number of people, if you have a certain seed of people there, that's great, because ultimately it boils down to the investment of time, effort for us as well. We want
Okay.
to support in the best way possible, but the more positive signal you give to a person at the incubator, the more they would be able to say that, okay, fine, maybe we can recommend you to one of our programs. I will
Okay.
add
So
one more thing to that.
yes.
Uh, some incubators, every incubators, I mean, most of them have a very specific way of working. So some incubators are also going to be sector specific. So if you are working on an idea in a specific sector and you chance to come across an incubator which is working and who has supported startups in that sector, it's a great way to go there and have a conversation, or have a conversation with them, book a time with them, ask them what are some of the questions which they would want to answer. I'm talking about specific to a certain sector, so it can differ what questions they will have. That can allow a person to be prepared once they meet them, and maximize the value of the time that both parties are going to spend together. And you can also get a better signal as to what makes for startups which failed versus startups which succeeded in the sector which they both are having in common.
Okay. So, do you have some kind of an qualification criteria for that is mentioned somewhere in the in some document which the entrepreneur needs to meet before expecting any kind of grant support or even using your facilities or any other facility of other incubators?
So typically when we associate people with the incubation ecosystem, we do try to de-bias as much as possible. We all have our biases, right? When we are going with people, some people are going to also come to me who I know, right? And it's not fair to say that, oh, okay, we'll figure out and support you. That doesn't work. So we figure out a committee, we figure out a process in which we evaluate people, and then we get them. So evaluation is done on a standardized rubric, a metric. A metric is kept in place, which is used as the basis for comparing or rating down startups. And then we compare that, and based on a certain scoring, we are able to figure out whether somebody comes in or not.
Okay, okay. And how do you differentiate between um, when to give grant and when to give seed fund?
That's an evaluation at the stage at which a company is. If it's too early stage, then we don't give a seed fund. They won't
It's
go into
always a
that.
grant.
Yeah, it's a grant, and of course grants are also given if once you have a certain promise with regards to seeing that there are results, there is a certain experience which the team is bringing, what kind of team it is, what are the relevant experiences, what is the utilization plans that they have. Some just mentioning some of the features which go into kind of helping make that decision.
Okay, fair enough. Now, my second question is with respect to another set of entrepreneurs who has graduated a bit in the entrepreneurial journey of their startup
Okay.
and have crossed the ideation stage, but
Hmm.
now they are almost close to building the prototype, but the prototype is not built. That is not built maybe because of lack of funds or because of the required skills or maybe some know-how. Resources are not there. They don't have place to sit and work together. It's a team requirement and they don't have place to sit and work. They do not have a laboratory to do that. Okay, good enough laboratory. So and they reach out
Hmm.
to your or any other's incubator. What are the chances of they getting seed fund or grant, whatever it is?
So it's going to be
facilities?
very subjective on a lot of parameters. Like I said, there is going to be a protocol set of processes in place which allow for evaluation of the applicants when they are coming into the system, and it is to be done in all ecosystems. It should be done in a way which debiases your opinion, and it allows you to create a good decision based on the signals we receive.
Okay. So are there any specific schemes which are targeting this stage of startup?
So this is going to be how many years? So when you say that this scenario,
So when I say this, it may be a year, maximum a year, wherein they
okay,
have cracked the idea, they have done their evaluation in the market.
so
It
they
is,
have done that,
yeah.
right? So
Now
if
prototype is not built fully. Yes.
so depending on the maturity, if it is deemed as a mature product where they feel like, oh, this is moving towards a certain growth stage. So I'll give you a reference point. A lot of people do look at the TRL levels. TRL level is a technology readiness level, and it comes around 9 levels which are there. I think it was in the ecosystem here. It denotes, if you break it down into three main phases, you might look at the first phase where it is the development of an idea. Second phase is going to be creating the prototype and creating it out, and then third stage will be more towards growth and commercial deployment. So if I were to break it down in very broad stages, this is what I think of it as. And depending on where we evaluate where the startup is at, based on that, they might qualify for a seed.
Okay. Okay. So for the audience, there is a very strict criteria-based assessment which is done for each application. And I just saw that it's all clearly provided in the website. You can beat any incubator. You just go to the website and you will find those requirements clearly mentioned there. And then there is a committee which is formed, and one has to go through the rigorous assessment of that committee to really qualify for any grant or any seed fund. So it's not an automatic thing that just because you think your product is great and people have accepted it, that automatically it will be funded. So I just have one question on the scheme, on your schemes that you have, Siddharth. There
Yeah,
is one scheme which is called Student Startup Program.
sure.
Now, what is this all about?
So we kind of have like we support the people in the campus just because there is so much of creativity which is buzzing at the level of students. So we have the student startup program and faculty startup program too. And under that, how we basically support is we are able to provide 3 months of support, free support, incubation support to students, faculties who are building out an idea. Of course, they apply for it, and as long as they are part, right now we do it exclusively for the campus, the institutes which are there in the campus. We support them so that they can come in 3 months, take the services, get a space. So we give them a co-working space also, which they can use for developing out their idea. And then after that, once we have a set of deliverables which come out from them, we also handshake on that. We will continue to provide support for an additional 3 months at 50% discounted rates. And then if we feel that they are at a place where they have made more progress, then we continue extending that for up to a year. And after that, they can formally kind of come into the incubation if they have reached a place where they feel like they want to spend more time in the incubation system.
But currently, it's only for students of your institutions which are in your campus. Fair enough.
Yeah, that's right.
Another program that kind of intrigued me was this virtual incubation program. Now, uh, I believe this is just incubation. Is there funding as well in this?
No, so there is no funding available in this, and under this program, we are able to provide support in terms of mentoring, training, the events that we are doing, and we are also able to give a certain number of hours of usage for the co-working space and meeting rooms to startups who kind of come in and take up us on the virtual incubation program. It is, of course, there's an annual fees associated with this, and then yeah, we are able to kind of
Okay.
onboard,
Then this is open for
yeah,
entrepreneurs from any state. You
this
don't
is
need
this
to come Maharashtra.
absolutely. And of course we prefer, since we are a technology business incubator, we prefer to have technology based startups. uh,
Okay. Yeah. So see, since you mentioned about technology, now this it's a very wide term when you say technologies. So is there any specific, technology that you are aiming at, or it is how do you define this technology?
so
Every
that's a
product can only be made using some technology or other.
Right. So I think the it's a good question, and I feel like the important thing to understand in technology is that it is not something which you are looking at solely as a business, right? You're just not creating a market ki apne ek shop khadi kar di, and now you're trying to get that, or kind we are trying to just separate out so that we are able to get in startups which are maybe targeting social causes through the medium of technology, which is not necessarily only in software is not the only way we are looking at technology. There is biotechnology, there is technology in the health tech side, climate related stuff, agriculture related stuff, and a
Yes.
whole spectrum of it. So of course, they like you mentioned correctly that the spectrum is quite wide, and typically what happens over a period of time. So I still think that we are this is the 10th year of SPTBI, and we would eventually kind of maybe look at the startups that we have supported all this while, and then narrow down to certain sectors and areas, so we kind of fix out that these are the areas where we can successfully support a whole bunch of startups in the domain of technology.
Well, my another question is, Siddharth, if an entrepreneur needs to zero down to one incubator, what are the criteria that he or she should see to as to how do he decide which incubator suits his requirements more than others?
So it absolutely very subjective. It depends on what are the things which matter most to the person who's seeking support. Some incubators might be able to provide some resources better than the others, right? So it's always going to be a mixed bag of things which come with it. So what works best is you are able to come up and be very clear with what kind of support you need in order to success. Define your success criteria, define what kind of support you need, and then have a conversation. Firstly, check, most of the incubators have the websites, check at the offerings which are being provided, the schemes which are being provided, the support which is being provided, and then book an appointment or talk if they can come by and speak to the person with very very targeted questions which can allow them to understand whether this works or not.
Siddharth, you have worked with a lot of entrepreneurs and have guided a lot of startups. By now, you have also probably experienced many failures in startups. So, what, according to you, what is that stage which usually when the startups fail or fail to cross that stage?
So biggest areas is, so think about it this way, that people who have developed out a product, right? um, they might have developed a product from their own perspective, and they do not know if this is really going to be utilized. You can have a very good product, but if you don't have any customers, that's going to be a failure, right?
Absolutely.
So figuring out um, what your product market fit is becomes very important. I think that's a place where a lot of people fail. That's one kind of a valley where a lot of people fall through. The
Very
second
well
is
said.
Yeah, and the other is like when you are trying to take something to the market, right? So which is your go-to market strategy? How are you going to get something to the market and make it reachable to the people? Maybe you know that you have a whole bunch of people who are wanting the product, but you do not know how you can make it reach them, which is where scalability comes in, right? So I think of product market fit happening before go to market, so that you know that you have developed something which will be required by the people, and you have identified that you have identified, like you said, the restaurant owners who have signed up that we'll take this up when that is built is good, is a
So,
good thing.
yeah, exactly. So isn't it really very logical that when you have an idea and you want to build a product, the first thing that one must do is go to the market and check whether it's acceptable in the market, and if the consumers say that they give some indication, then that is when one should proceed to build the prototype. Well, however, so you are saying it's post the building of prototype when usually they realize that they have built something, it's great, but there are no buyers, and that is when businesses fail.
Right, right. So that is a place where people fall through, but it's not as simple. Also, right? You cannot
I
always
understand.
guarantee
Yes.
that,
Yeah.
because when you are coming and creating an idea, at times people do not know what they want. We are accustomed to living life in a certain way, and if you're looking at disruptive products, we don't know how they're going to impact. So we can fantasize about it and say, oh, okay, we possibly like it, but it's
Yeah.
only when you start seeing some shape and form giving to it, being given to it over a period of time, that is when you start realizing, or you can
Right.
kind
Right.
of get invested. So
Absolutely.
we technically all are investors in some
Yeah,
sort.
that's true. I mean, there can always be exceptions to it. Like if iPhones, Apples would have decided to go to the market and check with the customers, consumers, whether they are willing to, take such a product. Probably they would have failed.
100%.
Yeah.
If you go back to Ford's time, what people
Yes.
were wanting, if you go to check with the market, they'll say we want faster horses, not cars, right?
Understand.
So
Yeah.
that changes.
There's another question. I mean, we are just coming to an end now. Uh, how, Now, again, out of your experience, Siddharth, what do you think? How important are compliances for a startup from day one? Often, I have seen that entrepreneurs they completely shut their eyes as far as compliances are concerned. They would create a company or they would create some entity, but they will not take the PT. They will forget about PF registrations, shop and establishment registrations. So, have you very often come across these kind of situations? What is your personal view? How important are compliances?
So compliances are very, very important to have. They are not very important, they are critical to have, if you want to avoid any legal and financial troubles, right? And of course, you don't want to come into a place where you suddenly realize, oh no, we don't have these compliances in place, because that's a high, you're already working in a startup, you have high stress, building out the product every day, and now you have to deal with something which you possibly do not have idea about. So figuring out, when you register as an entity, what kind of entity and what are the premises of that entity, what works for you, and what are the rules you should follow. You should, I feel, a basic understanding should be there. So you read up about that. But apart from that, also have, so for instance, as an incubator, we do provide some kind of support in terms of getting mentoring and guidance from, for compliances as well. And when we do that, that's the idea, is you can ask your questions, make sure that you can be well informed, they are experts. Ask what is required, so that you have a checklist that you are always following, to make sure about, that things don't fall through. Tax compliance is another one. There is intellectual property rights. Make sure that you are well aware of that. When you're working on innovative products, you want to file an IPR, make sure that uh, you're not ending up infringing on any rights, or you are, also securing the rights to things which are your intellectual properties. And of course, the more you start growing your team, employment laws become very important. So make sure that you
Absolutely,
are.
absolutely, absolutely. So I used to say when I was in the corporates and whenever I gave presentations on compliances, my first slide always used to be that if you think compliances are expensive, try non-compliance. Yes, with that, Siddharth, I'm moving to the next question.
Sure.
Now we know that an entrepreneur requires different professionals at different stages of startup. At what stage do you think chartered accountants should venture in?
Okay, so I think we typically get in chartered accountants because since we are having a mix set of companies at different stages, the different stages people require different kind or the depth of help from chartered accountants. But things around structuring, tax planning, and I think you will be able to answer better that there is people who are really good CAs like you, how when they come into the system and they empower people in terms of understanding how you can have compliance management is one of the things, bookkeeping, or doing investor
Yeah.
due diligence. All these are very important. It's not an area that I dive too deep into, since we just call on some of the people who are well equipped.
Out of my experience, I would just like to share with the audience that do not venture into this with an expectation to make money from day one. If you venture into the startup world with an approach of handholding the entrepreneur and of helping him build his company, his dream, then at some point, yes, of course, we all are here to do business, but at some point it will start paying. But it's not always necessary that that point will come in all cases. So it's a very different kind of mindset that you should have if you are dealing with an entrepreneur and a startup. So, with that, Siddharth, I think I am done with the set of questions that I had. Let me see if there is anything in the comments, and also there are some of them have sent me LinkedIn messages because they were not able to join. I mean, to comment live.
All right.
Okay, so this is one question from one Miss Lovely. Uh, she's asking who is eligible for this Startup India scheme.
Okay, so eligibility for Startup India scheme, I would say that the website itself captures a very good um review with regards to who can apply. So I would say please go and refer that out. There will be certain constraints. So even when we are filtering out the applicants, in case if you don't fall into those buckets, then we kind of mark them as red. So the website has the details on that.
Okay.
Hmm.
There is another question from Manish. He's asking, I would like to know, is there any course to understand the whole process? I mean, to reach out the right incubator and to get backed up by an incubator. Is there any such course available anywhere?
Uh, well, yeah. So I think there are some courses which do run. I did take one quite some time back, and that was by BK Chakravarti ji, and that was on NPTEL website. That's one that I took, and I thought that that gave a very good overview of how some of the startup stories unfolded, and what are incubators, how are they different from different organizations which support startups. So I think maybe that is a course you can
Which is the website you mentioned?
you can find it on NPTEL.
MPTEL.
Yes, yes.
Okay, MPTEL.
Hmm. I'll
There is
share
another.
the I'll share the link with the course so that you can maybe share it with them. But that's one course I know, and I know that there will be more too. But that's a course I took personally, and I found that it was quite meaningful.
Okay. There's another question from Dr. Priyatam Kamath, and his question is: do incubators support medical startups?
Yes, they do. Depends on which sector they are. So sometimes if you're looking at a sector's specifics, there is, so for instance, there is one of the incubators in North, which is called GIMS, and that's basically,
GIMS.
Yeah, GIMS. That is actually an incubator set up in a hospital. So you do have, so in case if you're looking at something very specific to the medical field, you might want to take a look at that. I think it's based out of Noida. Uh, uh, but yeah, take a look at that.
GIMS. So,
GIMS.
Dr. Kamath, the incubator name is GIMS Incubator. This is an incubator which is based inside an hospital, and it is in Noida, right? Let me see. There is something which is come in LinkedIn as well.
Sure.
Yeah, so there is another question, which is most people talk about building products, but how does one learn to build belief in customers, team, and even investors, especially when there is nothing to show yet? And it's a
I
very
guess
subject.
that's a deep-rooted question. I would say surround yourself with some people who believe in you. That always helps to shape, your idea. If you're looking at an idea, if you don't have anything, that's all right. Clean slates are fine, but have people who believe in you around. Have mentors who can guide you and give you that belief.
Yeah, and I think that is really fundamental to any startup, because all that you can give you or your team is leadership in the initial days, and a dream, and instill the belief in your team that you can achieve that dream. Together we can achieve. And
Absolutely.
without that, I think there is nothing. I mean, startup is nothing. I have seen startups breaking because the teams parting ways, the initial teams. So yes, that's important. Another question is, what's a mistake you made early on that looked smart at the time, but turned out to be completely wrong in hindsight? So I think what basically means is that, is it that often entrepreneurs make invariably they make a certain mistake in the beginning, all of them, but later on then they realize that it was a blunder. Have you come across any such experience?
I mean, I've made a lot of mistakes in life, and I think it's okay to understand that making mistakes is going to be a very essential aspect of being a human being, right?
Yes.
I think if I look at it, I won't give a very specific example, but uh, like there have been times when I maybe make a mistake. I know that this does not look right, but I kind of continue on to figure out and try to work around and see, if I can make it all right. The mistake out here is number one, there are times when you are surrounded with people who can help. So not asking out for help enough, that can be a mistake, because you feel like you have the onus of everything and you have to pull everything on your shoulder and work through. I think that can be a mistake. Second mistake, mistakes happen, but I think failures happen when you don't learn from mistakes. So from a mistake, if you are able to understand and do a post-mortem and find out, what is it that you can do better, they become your stepping stones to success. So ultimately they will lead you towards that.
Beautiful, beautiful. I would also like to, pitch in here, out of my experience as a CFO all this while in the industry, and also having worked with a startup, that there is one thing that I have realized, and this is the biggest mistake that not just entrepreneurs, startup entrepreneurs, but many CEOs they make, and that is not listening to their CFOs. And believe me, often it costs them really very very bad. And I mean, we have heard of organizations collapsing in this world. And more often than not, you will find that these organizations collapse not because they do not know how to do business. It's only because they have failed in some compliances, some accounting standards, whether you take Enron, whether you take Anderson, or be it any company, Lehman Brothers, the subprime of US. It did not happen because they did not know how to do business. They were very very smart and good at it, but they were non-compliant. They did not listen to the CFO, or maybe the CFO did not speak. But that's I would use this forum to share that thoughts. Let me see. I think, are we done?
So I'll add one thing there, Prince, and I think that was so meaningful what you just said. And when you look at building anything which is going to take time to build, know that it's going to take patience and it will always take a diverse team. You don't want to always be surrounded by people who will be like, yeah, you're the best, you have the best idea, go for it. Find people who disagree
Yes,
with you, right? Find people who are going to challenge your ideas as well, so that you start looking and working on it to see what you can do better, how you can kind of develop it out better. So finance officers, CA folks, you have the marketing. Everybody has a very, very critical role to play when you are kind of bringing out an idea to life. And I think each of them become prominent at different stages where you suddenly have focus on different areas. But everybody makes it a very important.
right.
It's
Beautiful.
very important to have this diversity in the team that
Beautiful.
we have.
Yeah, beautiful. There's just last question, and we will end with that.
Sure.
Nirav is asking, do one startup in can one startup incubate with multiple incubators?
So it is possible. There is co-incubation which can happen. Am I audible still? I think your
Yeah, you're
screen.
audible. You're audible. You're audible.
All right. So co-incubations do happen. For instance, there could be a startup which is physically incubated in a certain incubator, but they are getting a funding scheme from another place. So that is a possibility. There can also be other ways in which startup can co-incubate with different incubators. But of course, um, there has to be certain guidelines. So it will be subjective. It will depend,
But
from
it's
incubator.
possible. It's
It's
not
possible.
something which is not allowed.
It's possible.
These questions are pouring in. Let me just take one last one. Um, do incubators support training and teaching areas too?
Yes, training and teaching. Again, subjective. Different incubators are going to have different focus areas, but since one of the prime, objectives of incubators is to support early stage startups, which means training is going to be an essential part of it. So we will, typically incubators are going to create training programs or some kind of knowledge sessions or programs or series which are kind of geared towards bringing in experts from different areas, from a wide area of fields, which are going to be critical for helping first sensitize and raise awareness for people who are building on ideas, to kind of get to know, okay, these are areas they need to look at and possibly think about and gain some basic understanding on that. And then after sensitization and awareness, can work on getting the right people also.
Yeah. So the person has just clarified it. So what basically the person meant is, say for example, if somebody has does training for CPR, that is that cardiopulmonary resuscitation,
I
and
see.
and wants to grow that training to a larger crowd, and of course it
So
requires infrastructure.
wait, so if you're looking at CPR, is it like, is it aligned with what the startup is doing, or is it just like you want trainings in CPR?
Now it's the startup is doing CPR, is training
I see.
laymen to do CPR.
Okay, so I think it will depend. Like there'll be, I'll need to understand what more. And like I said, if for instance, if you're looking at a medical based centered incubator, you might be able to also get more dedicated support in these areas. Some places where you do not have that. Yeah, give me 1 second. Yeah. Yeah. So if you're not looking at something specific to the medical sector, and you're going to an incubator which is not as deep into the sector, then you might be able to get generic help around it.
Okay, okay. Okay. So I just wanted to add one more thing. I mean, to that answer, to the address that query. I think there is some element of innovation also which is probably required. It's not simply that which is like CPR. There are if there is a new way of doing CPR which is invented,
Right.
then probably that might get an incubator support. But if it is already there and one is only teaching it, that is not the kind of support Startup India initiative is meant for, right?
Right. So now if you're looking at figuring out what kind of schemes you can apply, for instance, if your application to a certain scheme with regards to what you're making, that's going to be another set of rubrics which are going to be used for figuring out whether a support is can be given in terms of the scheme or not. But beyond that, assuming that the startup is already there in the ecosystem, then depending on what their targets are, what how we are looking at the growth of the startup and what kind of help they need. So in case if they feel like you need help with regards to gaining or gain knowledge around CPR or do something around in CPR, then we can try and figure out people who can help out with that. But of course, we try to uh, you know um, get in people who are typically ones which we can support better.
So fine, I think, I mean, these questions will keep coming, and even after we have ended our session, the video will be out there in YouTube, and they can always audiences can always comment there, and I'll try to get back and address to the queries as much as possible. We have already short the time by around 10-15 minutes. Thank you so much, Siddharth. I think this was a very engaging conversation, and it was not really an interview kind of stuff. And it I think audiences, the kind of response I see from them, I was not expecting them to be so interactive. So that means it is well received by everyone, right? And thank you, Siddharth. And let's see, I'm just looking forward to more such conversation. Maybe we will have to raise the bar a little more next time and talk about, of course, startup, but at a different level, maybe term sheets and negotiations in startup, etc. Right? So, fine. Thank you so much. Thank you, audiences as well, for being enough.
Thank you so much for hosting me, Prince, and thank you all who took out the time to listen. And hopefully, I could answer some of the questions you had and could clarify that out. But yeah, in case there are things which you still want to know, reach out to Prince. He's an incredible person, and we can see if we can take some of the